Hello and welcome to another update video on SUI. Here on the SUI chart, I wanna spend a little bit of time to discuss the structures in more detail. In this video, I wanna add a little bit of commentary as well from an educational point of view. If you're just interested in the short-term pattern, just skip to the second half of the video in which I cover the short term. But what I aim to do in this video series as well, especially the one in which I add some commentary for those who are newer, want to learn Elliott Wave. I want to give some more educational content together with simply the analysis, because I recognize that I do recognize that the analysis can sometimes be very fast, and not everybody has the time always to watch the tutorials and everything that we provide as well. So it's about learning by watching, essentially. Okay, so SUI is an altcoin chart, obviously, that has performed really, really well in this cycle. One of the best performers, I'd say. Also one of the performers with the best structure. On the larger time frame, though, I can identify so far only 3 waves up. So first of all, when we have a chart like that, this is a daily time frame. We have to start the wave count. And that's my interpretation, right? That's my view. That's my style of working. We start the wave count at the low after the startup candle, because the data from the startup candle is absolutely unreliable. It's unclear, it's unreliable. You cannot recognize the structures. You don't know if this is an impulse or something else. You don't even know where it starts. It might be different on certain exchanges. Unreliable data. And I'm a huge fan of using data that's clear and that can be used without speculation. So that's just first thing to do. Then what we've seen on this chart was an initial 5-wave move up. I mean, this year was a 5-wave move up into the 2024 highs. And we could call that, as I said, a 5-wave move up in an A wave. Yeah, like that. In an A wave. And that made us overall bullish on the SUI chart. However, obviously, buying after 5 waves doesn't make any sense, because typically a correction is expected afterwards. Now, a 5-wave move, for those of you who are just wondering what is it about, a 5-wave move is typically an indication that the market wants to continue into that direction. And SUI, the SUI chart is a great example for that. Yeah, it's 5 waves up, and then what is expected afterwards? A 3-wave pullback, A, B, C. So, and this C wave, or any C wave, is a 5-wave pattern. So you can really see how well these patterns played out. 5 waves up, and then 3 waves down. But if you're wondering, but he just placed them anywhere, right? But then in the C wave, I can recognize clearly those 5 waves, okay? And they're also not randomly placed. I mean, I cannot just label them how I want. It's based on Elliott wave rules and guidelines, okay? So the wave 4 and 1 slightly overlap. That's typically an indication that the C wave is an ending diagonal. But I don't want to get too much into detail here. But at least I want to explain what the foundation is, why the 5 waves are important, the 3-wave pullback, it formed a higher low. Also important that the invalidation point was not broken. What we don't want in a structure that's bullish is a break below the beginning of that 5-wave move. That would be an invalidation. It would definitely not indicate positive progress, okay? Well, and then we've had, after a 5-wave move up and a 3-wave move down, which I call an A-B pattern, A waves can be 5 waves, B waves can be 3 waves, we expected a 5-wave move up in wave C. So obviously I don't want to get into too much detail here, but we can interpret this as a 3-wave move up so far into the December 2024 highs. So 3 waves, but as I said, a C wave is always a 5-wave move. So we have a wave 1, we have a wave 2, we have a wave 3, wave 4, and this could be the wave 5. And then I have an A, B, C structure. That's a very common pattern that we find very much on altcoin charts. Now, in the C wave, yeah, it's a 5-wave move, and the 4th wave was a little deeper than ideal. That's the main problem I have with this chart. I mean, it was not too deep to be valid, but too deep to be ideal. Because what we don't want is a break below the 50% retracement in a 4th wave. That was at 199, price dipped to 168. Not long, briefly. It's debatable whether this was a decisive break. It's not an invalidation, it's a valid count, and yeah, we continue to focus on that yellow scenario, yeah? But because of the depth of the pullback, we also have to consider that maybe that move up is already finished, okay? Thanks so much for watching the videos on this YouTube channel. If you've been thinking about joining MCO as a member, now might be a great time. You can use the link in the video description and apply the discount code right below it. You will get 50% off your first month of our Gold membership, and you can explore everything we offer. It's the easiest way to test the membership, see if it's a good fit for you, and get a feel for the community, join the conversation, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in our member area. And you know, we are starting a larger pullback. That would be the white count. I don't want to talk too much about it, but it's possible that we already have this 3-wave move up completed, labeled a larger wave A, and we're now starting a larger B wave pullback. That would be the bearish count. Let's assume Bitcoin goes into the bear market now. That's probably what it is. But as long as we are holding above our upper support area, I continue to focus on higher prices. And this is highlighted here between $2.09 and $3.05. All right. But why is this support area there? First of all, we need some kind of a support area that kind of keeps the local uptrend alive. And why do we have it on the chart? Because we have another 5-wave move up from the April low. I think clearly visible on the chart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One of the cleanest 5 waves we have again. SUI has been really a great chart. Forming 5 waves everywhere. So after 5 waves, what did I explain to you in the beginning? We typically expect a 3-wave pullback. So this is our wave 2, a 1-2 setup, a so-called 1-2 setup. That's what they are, 5 waves into the trend direction, followed by a 3-wave pullback. A 1-2 setup gives us clear parameters. A wave 2 should normally not break below this support zone here, yeah? Not below the 78.6 retracement. Why have I labeled larger 5 waves here again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because a 5th wave is usually a 5-wave move. So usually, when we're dealing with a larger impulse, which we are doing. So that C wave is an impulse, then the C wave has 5 waves, and those 5 waves are not all 5 waves are 5-wave movements, but the wave 1 is, the wave 3 is, as you can clearly see, and the wave 5 would be as well. So we have a clear support area that keeps the trend up, that gives you all the parameters you actually need on this time frame. It doesn't mean that we ever have to test the 78.6 retracement. It doesn't mean we have to test the 61.8 retracement. It just means we must not break below the lower boundary. But if we get into this region, there are 4 Fibonacci levels to watch where we could get a reaction. So this would be the yellow scenario, can easily take us into this target range between $7.35 and $10.91. Now, if we don't get a deeper pullback and we break out directly from here to the upside, then it is technically possible that this 5th wave is done in a very straight, direct fashion without a nicely and clearly defined 5-wave pattern. So that's our orange scenario. Yeah, in the orange scenario, we might go higher more directly. 1, 2. The 3rd wave is still unfolding. I don't like that count. It's not my preferred count. But when I see a setup within this count, I share it. And there is one on the smaller time frame. And then a wave 4 and a wave 5. So this is what I am tracking in the orange count. Not really preferred, but still a probable scenario. And now let's take a look at the shorter term count or shorter time frame count for SUI. Now, here we haven't really seen much change. This is basically everything zoomed in, right? So you see that 5-wave move up from the April low, and you see that here potentially a substantial top formed on the 12th of May, or at least that might have marked the beginning of the correction. People have asked me in recent weeks, where is that correction that I talked about? Well, it's here. We've been correcting since the 12th of May. Sometimes that only gets revealed later to many people, yeah? A lot of people who are not so familiar with how crypto charts work or generally charts are to be read, they don't see stuff like that as a correction because it's mainly moving sideways, but it is, yeah, because it's not trending, okay? It's a counter trend move. So we've been correcting for already 2 weeks. And I have to, focus on the pathway that seems most likely, most reasonable. That for me is still the yellow scenario in which I'm tracking the wave 2 as a corrective pattern. There are different corrective patterns available. One is specifically the WXY structure. And in the Y wave, we have an ABC pattern. Essentially, I'm just looking for a pathway to the downside that kind of makes sense, allows me to add some parameters to the chart. And this wave count does that because we could identify a standard resistance area that so far has been respected. And that's between, that's here for this B wave, and that's between $3.69 and $4.02. So as long as we don't break above $4.02 or $4.03, there is no sign really that we're breaking out. At the same time, in the short term, there is this orange scenario, which is directly bullish. This is the one where we go up higher more directly. But again, that's not necessarily preferred until we get further evidence, like, for example, a break below above $4.03. This scenario is really only an option because I have a 5-wave move up from the 27th of May low, but you see there's a very small time frame, so it's not super reliable. Then we had a 3-wave pullback into support between $3.47 and $3.60. And what did I tell you? If we get a break below the 78.6 retracement, then this 1-2 setup to the upside becomes less probable. So that's really the key level that must hold. Could be a 1-2 setup still, kind of low confidence, but still worth watching. That's the update on SUI. I hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then please check out the channel membership. Also, yeah, if you're interested in learning Elliott Wave, I assume that might have been one of the reasons why you clicked on the video. Yeah, check out our membership. There's a lot of learning content, lots of educational content. You can also follow us on X for additional content, also learning and mindset content as well, because if you want, being successful in the markets doesn't only depend on being able to read a chart. You need the right mindset and so on. That's also what I'm very passionate about. So I teach a lot about that also in our membership. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.